You wake up at 5:50. No alarm needed anymore. Not because some podcast told you to grind before sunrise. Your body just runs on its own clock now. Because for the first time in your adult life, nothing is chasing you. The house is a small two-bedroom in a part of town nobody writes articles about. You bought it 14 years ago for $178,000. Today it's worth $310,000, and you finished paying it off 2 years back. Your net worth is $1.9 million. Your mailman doesn't know it. Your coworkers don't know it. Your cousin, who leases a new SUV every 3 years, definitely doesn't know it. You just smiled at Sunday dinner and passed the rice. You put on the same gray hoodie you've owned for 6 years. You own 3 of them, identical. This isn't about being cheap. It's about never having to think about a hoodie again. You make tea at home instead of stopping at the cafe near your office. That's roughly $14,000 saved over the years. But the money was never really the point. The point was becoming someone who decides once and never has to decide again. While the water boils, you check your accounts. 90 seconds, and that's the only time all day you'll think about money. $1.3 million sits in 2 low-cost index funds. Nothing exotic. You haven't sold a single unit in 16 years. Not when the market fell 30% and your portfolio lost more in a month than your first car cost. And not during the year everyone online was certain everything was collapsing. You just kept adding a fixed amount every month, quietly, like a bill you pay to your own future. $310,000 sits in the house, fully yours, the papers locked in a small steel box beside your passport. $180,000 sits in a separate account you don't touch, not an investment, just 18 months of expenses, doing nothing on purpose. Its whole job is making sure you never have to sell anything at the worst possible time. The rest is scattered, a small emergency fund for your parents, a little put aside for your nephew's school fees that nobody in the family knows about yet. You close the laptop. The market will move today, up or down, and you will do exactly nothing about it. That took years to learn and cost nothing but patience. You take the metro to work, same as always. At the signal outside the station, a brand new SUV rolls past, easily worth what it took you 6 years to save. You don't judge the person driving it. You just do the quiet math out of habit. That EMI, invested instead, compounds into something the SUV never will. The light changes. You walk on, sipping tea from a steel flask that's older than some of your coworkers' jobs. Here's the part people don't expect. You still work. Team lead, 11 years in, a decent but unremarkable salary. Nobody suspects the guy who brings the same lunchbox every day could, if he wanted, stop working entirely. You keep working because you like the work, and because every rupee you earn now is optional, not required. That changes how you sit in a meeting. When your manager pushes a plan you think is wrong, you say so, plainly, because you can afford to be honest. The one expense most people in that room can't cover. Around 11, a younger colleague catches you near the coffee machine. 24, sharp, quietly drowning. "Can I ask something weird? You seem to have this figured out. I've got debt on 3 cards, and I don't even remember what half of it was for." You don't lecture him. You remember being 24, when debt felt heavier as shame than as a number. So you tell him the only 2 lines that actually mattered for you. Pay yourself first, automatically, before the money can talk you out of it, and never carry a balance on anything that doesn't grow in value. That's the whole thing. Everything else is commentary. You don't tell him what you're worth. You never tell anyone. But that evening, you send him a book someone once sent you. Lunch is leftovers, cheap and fine. A coworker orders delivery and complains about money in the same sentence. You used to feel superior about that. Now it just makes you a little sad for them and a little embarrassed at your old self. Somewhere past your first $500,000, the smugness burned off completely, and something quieter replaced it. Other people's spending simply stopped being a scoreboard. Mid-afternoon, a phone you've wanted for 2 years drops in price to something you could buy without thinking twice. You add it to the cart and run the same 3 questions you always run. Will you still want it in 30 days? Are you buying the object or the feeling? And who exactly are you buying it for? You sit longest on the third question. The honest answer is usually strangers, and your entire financial life was built on refusing to pay for strangers' opinions. You close the tab, not out of willpower, out of recognition. Late afternoon, your sister calls. Her scooter broke down. Repair cost more than she has spare this month. You hear the same tight voice you remember from years when you were the one calling someone else. You send it within the hour and tell her it's not a loan. It's just what family does when a scooter breaks down. It's less than 0.1% of what you have. For her, it was the difference between fixing it now and paying 3 times as much later on borrowed money at a terrible rate. No index fund has ever given you a return like that one. You get home a little after 6. Your neighbor is out front washing his second new bike this year. Waves, calls out something about the match tonight. He earns more than you do, by every visible measure. He's winning. You genuinely don't think you're better than him. The bike gives him something real, and there's no spreadsheet for that. But you've also seen the other version of this story. You watched your own father lose his job at 52, with almost nothing saved and fear in his eyes that you never forgot. Somewhere in that memory, a much younger version of you quietly decided nobody would ever do that to their own family again. Every identical hoodie, every year without a new phone, every automatic transfer, it's just that promise kept on repeat. Dinner is with your partner, who has been in this with you from the start. Years ago, before any of this existed, you agreed on one rule. The first Sunday of every month, 30 minutes, tea, numbers on the table, no surprises. Most fights about money in a relationship were never really about math. They were about being blindsided. You simply removed the blindside. After dinner, you take the same walk you take most evenings. Someone on a podcast this morning asked, "What's your number? When's it finally enough?" You passed your number a while now, and nothing changed. No fireworks. The number just got bigger, and you were the same person walking the same street. That's the part nobody puts in a headline. What the money actually gave you happened years before you noticed it. The day you stopped dreading an unexpected phone call, the day layoff rumors at work stopped scaring you, the day saying no stopped feeling like a risk. Wealth was never really the number. Wealth is how many problems simply stop being problems. A broken scooter, a bad year at work, a market crash, an unexpected bill. None of them problems anymore. You're not chasing more money. You're just quietly converting money into calm, one ordinary day at a time. You read for a bit before sleep. Tomorrow is one meeting, a checkup, and your nephew's school fee due date. Someday he'll find out what's been quietly growing for him since he was small. That will be the loudest thing your money ever does. Today, you earned a normal day's income, spent almost nothing extra, helped your sister, and walked away from a phone you didn't need. Nobody clapped, nobody knows. Tomorrow, the market opens again, moves up or down, and you will do nothing about it, beautifully, again. Because once money is actually permanently yours, it stops making any noise at all. And so do you.